bunch of different animals. So first you sketch out your animal on a piece of paper. I wanted a big, large, snuggly hedgehog, so I took 4 pieces of paper and taped them together and then sketched out my hedgehog on here. And I allowed about a centimeter to ½ inch for seam allowance so that I don't have to make any adjustments when cutting out my pattern. Then you take some cute fabric like this little Dutch print fabric and you place good sides together and iron down so it's flat and smooth. And then you take your template and you pin it down on top all around the perimeter, just like this guy. So see, you have good sides together, pin. Then you take some scissors and you're gonna cut this bad boy out. Once you cut all around the perimeter, voila, you have this guy. You take off your template and then pin around both sides, around the entire perimeter of the hedgehog on both sides of fabric. So again, you have the good sides together, and there's your fabric piece that you're going to take over to your sewing machine. Hopefully you have a very cute pink sewing machine like I do. Alright, now we're going to sew this guy up. On the bottom, you're going to leave about 5 inches open that you don't sew so that you can flip it right side out again at the end. Never sewed on a crepe before, so here we go. Be very careful around his little nose. Try to get as smooth of a curve as you can. Keep moving him around and feeding him in there so you get a nice smooth line. And pull out your pins as you go. When you get to the spikes, you want to be very careful so that you don't sew too close to the tip so that when you turn it right side out, there's plenty of space and you don't accidentally snip your thread. So magically, like a cooking show, I am finished. So let's move this on over. So once you've sewn them together, and again you left that opening at the bottom, it'll look like this. And then before you do anything, you're going to take your scissors and see how there are these spikes. In between each spike and at the tip of each spike, you're just going to make a little snip about 45 to 90 degree at a 45 to 90 degree angle, being very careful that you don't snip any of your thread. But if you do, no worries. Just with your sewing machine, go right on over where you snipped. So once you've cut all of your little snips, your guy is ready to be turned right side out. So, make sure his little nose and all his little spikes get turned right side out. And for this, sometimes you're going to need to use the eraser side of a pencil. Somewhere around here. There's one somewhere. Little guys. If you're very careful, you can even use a pin or the tip of the seam ripper to pull out the very, very tips of the spikes. But again, be careful because you don't want to rip any of your thread. And what's fun about the hedgehogs is I have this general template, these general steps, but each one is totally different because I use different fabric or can vary the size of the nose or the spikes, or some have an eyeball with a button on it, some have a hand sewed on eyeball. Each one is its own little individual hedgehog. Do you guys guys want to be my little helpers and keep flipping out these little spikes for me? We have a very cute sister team who's going to help. You guys keep doing that. You take it right there. You can sit down right there if you want to keep pulling them out. But what you'll have eventually is he'll be in this shape. And then you'll take some of this simple cotton filling. You can also use, if you have a lot of scraps of fabric, sometimes I use that to fill my plushies just to recycle them because they're so small that they can't be used for anything else, but otherwise just use this cotton stuffing. And this is where the eraser tip end of a pencil comes in handy to really get the spikes totally filled. So once he's stuffed, then you're going to take the bottom and make sure so you can see where it's open, you're just going to fold them in like this and then take a pin and pin it closed, and then take some thread that will blend, like this white thread right here, and we're going to close them up with a whip stitch. So I'm going to take the knot and of course start it under there to hide my knot, and then whip stitch this little guy closed, like so. The whip stitch is the easiest one, and you just close it right on up. And then you tie him off at the end. And then we move on to the eyeball to finish him. And you can either, like on this guy, this was my first one and I just did a button eye. But you can either use white and black felt or white cotton fabric with fusible interfacing on it. And basically what I do is just cut a circle for the eyeball. And you can do a really big one, a normal size eye, a googly eye, whatever you want. Cut one circle here. You can even give your hedgehog eyelashes if she's a feminine girl. And then a smaller little circle with this. And then with black thread in my sewing machine, I stitch this one on. And then I take him to where I want his eyeball. And while this does look painful, I pin it on. And then again, you do a whip stitch to attach your eye on. And when you are finished doing that, have a little guy like this, or a little guy like this. And you can use this same general idea to do a bunny. Instead of a hedgehog drawing, it would just be a bunny or a dog or a cat or whatever. And I've given these as gifts, and every person that I've given, they seem to really like them, especially the small fries. My little Dutch cousin who actually brought me this fabric from Holland, I gave one to him for Christmas, and he's a little boy, and I thought, is he gonna really like this? Loves it. He still sings with it every single night, and I asked him what he named it, and he said some little Dutch word that I don't know, and I asked his parents, and they said that he named it Sweetheart. So I died a little bit then. But it's a great gift, and if a friend loves cats or they love owls, you can use the same general idea and give it to them as a gift. And the size, I just recommend doing it large enough to snuggle with. Word to the wise, if you have a beagle, keep them above reach, which I do. And I've lost a bunny here this way. Alright, so that's our hedgehog plushie how-to. It takes a little bit longer, but I just wanted to make sure that I got all the steps in so you know how. There's a full tutorial on the Threadbanger website, which I think the link is up on the Maker Faire website. And there are lots of examples here if you want to come up and touch them and feel them. Like this is a turtle that I used just a very simple like oval shape with the head and then did little feet inside. So you can get really creative and do whatever animal you want. My goal is to make a big, huge, winding snake for my nephew for Christmas. So here's hoping. We're going to do a little raffle giveaway, so make sure that you enter it.
Anybody not into the raffle? Want to enter the raffle? Okay, I think we have